Morning. So the reason I'm standing right here is because I'm actually in the middle of the Venice node. A couple weeks ago, my friend Rory McQuestion was right here, and he did me the favor. I told him this is the power spot, because this is where I've been coming for decades. This is where I spend New Year's Eve, and there's usually nobody out here but me on New Year's. And so I told him I was out here, and I brought him out here because it feels like the power spot to me. So he actually doused it, and he discovered that right here is right next to where the pipe goes into the rock here, the breakwater, is where the power spot is. There's a node here, so kind of reaffirms, a couple of years worth of just going by intuition. I hope it looked good, because it's been a very rough 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever. Don't know if you know, but I had my last chemo infusion on March 4th, and a week later I did a consultation with an oncologist, and she said that it was unnecessary for me to do any more, which is really good, because they had another one scheduled for this week, the 24th. So that's canceled. Hallelujah. So I have the remnants of almost 400 milligrams of this cisplatin in me that will take who knows how long for me to work it out of my system. The very next day, I contacted the radiation oncologist and told them that, informed them that I was suspending radiation treatments for 2 weeks, and that we would reassess at that time and see if it was necessary to do a second round. The reason I did that was because within the first week, I should say within the first 10 days of the first infusion, the thumb-size tumor in the back of my mouth had disappeared, and the tumor in my neck, there were three, essentially there were three, let me get it open there, what do you call it, lymph nodes that were swollen right here. And the biggest one that was closest to the surface was about as big as a jumbo-sized egg. And I don't know if you can see that. Let me try to get some light on that. But you can see there's hardly anything there right now. So it's pretty much, as I and the oncologist were talking, we're strategizing and whatnot, it appears that the support system for the cancer has essentially collapsed in a cascade, and so it's been retracting ever since. And so there's none in the mouth, There's none in my throat, but there's still something right here. I'm not sure what it is. It may partly be the fact that this spot has been swollen for over a year and a half, so the tissues there may be traumatized. But we're gonna see. We'll just play it out. So far, hold on. I'm still spitting out dead cancer cells. It seems that the chosen route of leaving my body has been through my saliva, through my salivary glands. This has been very problematic because what that means is my saliva is toxic to me. And the downside of that is that swallowing it can make me retch. And it's made it very challenging. I just discovered a couple of days ago, I've been trying to, well, let me back up a little bit. After the first 3 days of the first infusion, I did 3 days of water fast, just intuitively. But I was eventually able to eat solid food again and keep my weight up a bit. After the second infusion, I was able to, I was intuitively, once again, I went into water fast mode, and fortunately or unfortunately, that lasted for 2 weeks. That brought my weight down to 150 pounds. I was unable to take in anything other than water, and in fact, in order to drink water, I would have to go through this elaborate cleansing of my palate first to get rid of all of these dead cancer cells. Now, this is compounded by the fact that the strategy of the radiation oncologist, standard care for this particular kind of cancer, is basically to irradiate everything from here down to here, initially in about 5,000 units of radiation over 3 to 4 weeks, and then to focus on whatever's left over the last 10 days. That was their strategy. Unfortunately, after the first couple of days, I had already eliminated that thumb-size tumor in the back of my mouth, and I was hoping that they would modify their treatment. But instead, they just went ahead and they radiated all this stuff. So what that did is it killed a lot of the cells that are in this area. That's how you see that I've barely got hair here. This from the top of my lip down, and all the tissues behind it have been irradiated. And unfortunately, while I was, attempting to heal, the situation was compounded by the fact that I was now having to deal with all these dead cells just randomly throughout my mouth and whatnot, and throat, having to, they all basically, at least all the surface cells died. So, and once again, the saliva was a way of getting rid of all those cells, and so that's what I was dealing with when, and because radiation is essentially cumulative, so I had basically 2,400 units over 2.5 weeks, and which means I completed half of their, scorched earth policy before I put a halt to it. And I had been negotiating with a brother to try to reverse the thing and stop doing what they were doing and just focus on this site in the neck. And they series of events, eventually that's one of the main reasons why I just stopped the whole thing. Because I realized that it was healing on its own. It was cascading on its own. It made sense to just let's see where that was going to go. and maybe the radiation wouldn't be necessary, because certainly their scorched earth policy was compounding my healing, challenging me more to heal from that as much as it was trying to heal the actual cancer. And it was obvious from a couple of things that their main reason for doing that, their rationale for doing it, was to prevent the cancer from spreading to anywhere else. Well, it was obvious from a couple of reasons that the cancer wasn't spreading at all. In fact, it was doing everything it could to get the heck out of the way. So anyway, so the first 2 weeks after the second infusion, from March 4th on to about the 17th, I basically had only water, and for that same amount of time, just about, I wasn't even pooping. I eventually did a coffee enema, and that cleared me out, and that freed me up and everything like that. Might have to do another one shortly. But ever since then, I've been slowly trying to figure out what I can take in. Well, unfortunately, on top of this, that irradiating that they did, also, it basically killed my taste buds. So now I can't. Well, I was limited in tasting before because of the cancer. It had moved onto my tongue and had accessed this, or attacked the savory center in the right back side of my mouth. And then it had healed. Excuse me. Now I don't even have that. I don't even have whatever I had before, which was, I could taste sweet, I could taste sour, I could taste bitter, and some savory. Now all that's gone too. So, I got to tell you, I'm really glad I followed my intuition to stop the radiation. I know that if I had continued any further, I would be a whole lot. I kind of want to cuss, but I'm going to make an effort not to here. I'm just going to say I would have certainly been a lot worse off. And I probably wouldn't be standing here being able to talk to you right now. I've been really low energy, as you might well suspect, but luckily, as I said to somebody that I spoke with the other day, it's like all of these years I've been living this semi-ascetic, wandering artist lifestyle, living on hardly anything, living hand to mouth. It's really served me, because now I know how to fast. I know I'm not overwhelmed by the psychology of going without food. And I learned a long time ago when I was going through my spiritual acceleration that basically we eat for fun, and nutrition, to keep the body going. And so that's my main, been one of my main concerns lately. So now where I'm at is I'm able to take in water, but only if it's like Mountain Valley spring water. It's got to be spring water, because I can taste the metals. If something's been in metal, I can taste it. If something, this cisplatin is a metal-based. There's metal in this drug, and if I take in metal, it draws the metal of that, and it causes this whole retching scenario, and it's very challenging. Because I'm so thin right now, lean, as they say. Retching is actually painful, physically painful. So we try not to do much of that. But I started to take this other anti-nausea drug that they'd given me. Compazine, I think it's called. And when needed, just so I can try to take stuff in. Okay, so the other day I tried a piece of bread and I'm chewing it, a piece of toast, and I'm chewing it, and it, I get these intuitions, and the intuition said that basically the reason why it's not good to chew or masticate is because chewing and mastication causes the salivary glands to kick in and draws the toxins into my mouth. So whatever I'm going to do going forward is for the next little while here, there'll be no mastication. So just take in things where I don't have to masticate and cause salivation. Luckily, here's another reason why it's a really good thing that I stopped when I did the radiation, because if I had continued, they would have essentially fried those salivary glands, and they would have their treatment would have required, and requires most people, to get a feeding tube, and that was just so not even in it on my agenda. So so what I'm doing going forward is to I had miso soup. It's a miso soup last night. I can do a smoothie in the morning. I can do juices, fresh made juices. And that's what I'm going to be doing from here for at least the next week, if not longer, until the mastication issue is no longer an issue. I don't know how long. I'm sure there are people that know. I don't know how long this spitting thing goes on. The spitting thing is kind of a mixed blessing, because as long as the spitting's going on, that means that there's dead cancer cells going out. So we don't want to stop that in a way, until it's all gone. So, and just to, share some of the, we're still on track for 100% cure. So, the oncologist said that 12 weeks after the last radiation treatment, they'll do another PET scan and see if there's anything left. And if there is, then, they look at, possibly more radiation, possibly surgery. But at that point, there's no point in doing any more chemo, she said. So that's the situation. And so I think it's interesting that while I'm going through this, the rest of the world is hoarding toilet paper. And I've recommended that people try the not exactly the chemo diet, but try not eating for 2 weeks or how long, and do a colon cleanse or a colon what was it called, enema, and then repeat as needed. That'll, and you won't need any friggin' toilet paper. Then do a juice fast and shut off your colon completely. I'm sure there's nobody who's going to do that, but hey, it's a thing. So how I'm spending my time is when I'm not curled up in a fetal position on my left side, trying not to swallow my saliva and napping furiously. I have been working on the final edit of my passion project that I've been writing for 10 years called The Natural History of Life and Death, which encompasses everything that you really need to know right now about the Earth's subtle energy, naturally occurring subtle energy field. And the apocalypse, the revelation of things that have been hidden. And it feels so wonderful to be finally reaching the culmination of this project. Just before I came out here today, I'm on, I completed page 125. Right now it's up to 330 pages. I'm hoping to complete the last 200 or so pages, editing-wise, over the next couple of days. So that no matter what happens, because one of the things that this has taught me is there are no guarantees. So at least this work will be there for you and those who come after. The reason I say there aren't no guarantees is because this is the part, the subtle part where a lot of people don't make it. And this balance between how much energy do you have, how much nutrition can you take in, how much can you stand of the radiation, how much can you stand of the chemo, and do you have enough in you do you have enough strength to make it through? And there are no guarantees. It's a moment by moment thing. It's a calculus between you and the source of the universe. And we'll only know when it's over, one way or the other. That said, I don't plan to be leaving the planet anytime soon. But you know what they say about the best laid plans of mice and men, right? So, what else did I want to say? I want to thank everybody that's been donating, that's donated up to this point to my GoFundMe. And I'm hoping to contact the radiation oncologist this week and see if there's a need for any more radiation on this. And if not, I'm gonna slowly make my way out of where I'm staying. If I'm able to still stay there, given that the person I'm staying with could get sick at any time. There's any number of scenarios, which would mean that I'd have to move as soon as possible. I have to obviously, before all of this, for all you were doing social distancing, I've been doing social distancing. So it's just another one of those things about how weird and in tune or in time I am, or the world is, to what I'm doing. Sorry. But as the old lady said, it's better out than in. So once again, I'm putting it out there. It'd be really great if I could raise enough money to move into a Dodge Sprinter. I'm looking for one with a high roof that's about 118 inch wheelbase. That means it's about 17 feet, and preferably between $5,000 and $10,000. I right now probably have about $4,000 saved, that I can put towards it. And I'm looking forward to the part where I get to drive off into the wilderness and find one of those hot springs that I know about that hardly anybody else does, and go soak these toxins out of my body for the next month or so. And at least that's my daydream. And you know what they say about, you know, if you want to make the universe laugh, tell them your plans. So anyway, thanks again to everyone that has given resources to my well-being, either through PayPal or through the GoFundMe. I've used most of what you've given me for my, you know, all the supplements and stuff that got me healthy enough to be able to last this long through this process. I've lost a lot of muscle mass, but the good thing is I had it to lose. And without that, I wouldn't be standing here right now. And without those resources, I probably wouldn't have been standing here. I wouldn't be standing here right now. So if this is in any way a victory, it's our victory. And I can never forget that. And I know that these things are a matter of the spirit. And I recognize that this journey is a shamanic one, and I claim this. I claim this for myself, but I claim this for us all. And with that, let's take a look around. There's Santa Monica and all its Santa Monica Mountains, and Point Doom out there. And you can see, let's step up here. There's what do you call it? Catalina is out there. And that's Palos Verdes there, Marina del Rey, and of course my own favorite, Venice Beach, California. The veritable edge of Western civilization. All right, well, I think that's enough for now. Come to my favorite part of this. This is me beaming love at you. Remember, we love you.